I'd like to give you a little introduction to Unix in this video. Unix is an operating system that's over 40 years old now. It's developed at Bell Labs in the late 60s and early 1970s. And it's become really one of the main operating systems that's out there. It sits on a lot of different computers, so all of Mac OS sits on top of Unix. There's other flavors of it that sit on Android. So if I have my Android phone is running a flavor of Unix. Different vendors have their own versions of it. Another version of it is Linux. So it's one of the main operating systems. I want to give you a little introduction to how the file system works. So I'm going to show you my Mac. You're not going to be using a Mac necessarily. You're going to be using a Linux machine, but the file system and the commands and the terminal window is all pretty similar between the Mac and Linux workstation, which is what you're going to be using. So I'm going to go to Finder. Finder is a program that's sort of like Windows, Windows Explorer, and it just kind of shows the file system. And so, for example, I can click here, and this is my my home directory, and it has a bunch of folders in it. If you go way up to the top, there's a Macintosh hard disk, and that's going to show the whole hard disk. Now, there's a whole tree, just as you have under Windows. If you go under Users, so remember, we're going to go from this root to Users. You're going to see that there's only a couple users on this computer. I'm the main one. So there's Ed Malthouse, and I'm going to click on that. And we're back to this list of all the folders on my computer. Now, using Finder is a very user-friendly way to navigate through the system. We can also do the same thing with a terminal window. In another video, I'll show you how to get to that. If you're a Mac user, when you log into Unix, all you get, or Linux on this workstation, all you get is the terminal. Actually, I'll show it to you now. You just go into Applications, and it's going to take a second, I guess, and then go down to Utilities, and at the bottom you get this terminal window. So if you double click on that, you get a terminal window. So again, I'll take us back to my root directory. So you don't get this on a PC unless you install Cygwin or one of these Unix clones that you can run on top of Windows. Okay, so now my point with this was we found my folder by going to Macintosh hard drive, Users, and then Ed Malthouse. Let's go over to this terminal window, and I can find out where I am in this tree with a command. I can just type pwd for print working directory, and what you're going to see, oopsie, let me go back as if I just started this up. So pwd is /users/Ed Malthouse. And so it's saying that right now I'm sitting in this folder users Ed Malthouse. And we separate these parts of the path with a /. Windows uses a /. And so that's exactly where we're sitting. Now I can find out what's in this folder with another command called ls. So ls is short for list. The original creators of Unix were, they like to abbreviate things. So rather than typing list, they just typed ls. And so what you'll see is a listing of all the folders and files that are located in this location. Now if you go back to what I had up earlier on Finder, you'll see that it matches exactly what comes up here, except they alphabetize them slightly differently. So there's a bin, here we have a bin. Desktop, here's the desktop. So if I were to go into one of these folders, for example, I could go into Teach. You'll see that there's a whole lot of folders and other articles. Alternatively, I could navigate this by using the Unix terminal. So if I want to change a directory go into that teaching directory over here. I'm going to use another command called cd. So if I say cd teach, if I type pwd, you'll see that now I'm in users at Malthouse teach. And if I do an ls, I'll get exactly what I have on my Finder window. So all those files are over here as well. Let's go to a specific one where we can play around a little bit. A data set, a folder that has a lot of text files in my account is in the 304 directory. So I'll kind of click along, and then there's a folder in here called data. And so what you'll see is I have a whole bunch of data sets that I use when I teach this other course, and they're all text files, which will make it really nice for us. So if I want to get to that folder from where I am right now, so notice right now I'm in users at Malthouse teach, I can just say cd 304/data. So I can specify a compound, a two-step path, if you will. And if I do an ls, notice I have exactly the same data sets as I get with Finder. So I'm just showing you that you're getting the same thing with the terminal window as you get with this user-friendly Finder thing. When we get to Linux, you're not going to have Finder, so that's kind of a problem, and you're going to be stuck with only the terminal window. Okay, so each one of these is a different data set, and we can do stuff to these data sets. So, for example, if we wanted to display the contents of newfood.csv, so that's sitting up here, I could do that with the cat command. So if I just say cat newfood.csv, it displays the whole file to my window. And you're going to see there aren't that many lines. There's probably 25 lines in this file. I don't need to guess, though, because Unix would also count them for me. So if I wanted Unix to count them, there's a command called wc. And wc is a word count. So wc newfood.csv tells me the following. There's 25 lines, 25 words, so words are separated by spaces. This file has no spaces in it, so every line is a word, and a total of 518 bytes or characters in the file. So that's what WC does. WC is extremely useful when you get a new data set from somebody and you want to just find out, well, how big is it? Cat displays the entire file. Another command that you'll find to be pretty useful is something called head. So you can say head newfood.csv, and if you do that, it gives you the first 10 lines. So again, when you get a new data set from somebody and you just want to see what it kind of looks like without having to display the whole thing, head's really useful. Now you can actually add some options to all of these Unix commands. So if I say head -5 newfood.csv, it's only going to display the first 5 lines. Another command that you might want to use is tail. So if I say tail newfood.csv, that gives me the last 10 lines by default. You can get help on any of these commands with a command called man. So if you say man and then give it a command name, so like man head, you will get a description of what head will do. So head -n count. Actually, you don't even need the -n part. You can just say -5 for counts. This just tells you what it does and all the options. All right, and to get out of this, just hit Q, and you get back to the Unix prompt. What if I wanted to make a new folder? Well, using the Finder, I could just go up to File and make a new folder. But we could also do this with the terminal. So I'm going to make a new directory, and you do that with something called mkdir, which is again short for make directory. And I'm going to make a new folder called class. All right, so if I do that, notice if you saw, you could back up on your video, we just got a new folder over here called class, and it's empty. And so if I do a cd class, I'm now in that folder. If I do a pwd, you'll get to see the whole path of how to get there. All right, I'm going to go back to the previous directory. I can just do that with cd ... which would say take me to the level before class. If I do a pwd, you'll see I'm back in data. To get a listing, I type ls. And now I'm going to show you how to copy a file. So sometimes you want to make a copy of a file. You do that with command cp. So let's copy newfood.csv, and I'm going to put it into a new food. How's that for a name? .csv. If I do an ls, now you'll see this new food.csv. We can cat it, and you have exactly the same thing. Sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes you want to change the name of something. So back in Finder, you would just click on a file. So that cd ... is like clicking on the back arrow. And up here somewhere we're going to have new food. So if I wanted to change the name of this file, I would just click on it and I could type in a new name. Well, I could also do that from the terminal here. The command I'm going to use is called move. So you can guess how a Unix person spells move. It's spelled MV. And you specify the old name, so new food.csv, and then you have to give it a new name. So let's call it example.csv. And so now you'll see some things happened up over here on the Finder page. If I do an ls, you're going to now see this example. So move something. If I want to remove a file, you can guess how a Unix person spells remove. He spells it, or she spells it, rm for remove. So we can get rid of example. And the file is now gone. Let me talk to you a little bit about some additional options for ls. So one that's quite useful is ls-l. So the -l says, give me a lot more information. It's -l, not =l. So ls-l gives a lot of information. So here's every file. It shows when it was created. It shows the number of bytes that it is. It shows who owns it, what group they're in, and then off to the left it shows who has privileges to read and write it. So the owner, which is me, I can read and write all these files, but other people on my computer can only read it. They're not allowed to write it. These X's mean that it can be executed, so run. All right, so ls-l is a really useful command to know. Sometimes you don't want to list all the files. So sometimes you just want to list, for example, everything that's a CSV file. So to do that, I have to use a wildcard. So I'm going to say ls star.csv. So the star just means match any sequence of characters. So if I hit enter, you're going to see a much shorter list of files, which all of which end in .csv. And you can do a lot of things with the wildcard. So for example, ls p star would list all files that begin with p, and there's only a couple files there. I could restrict this even further by p star.csv. So this is going to list anything that begins with p and ends in .csv. So this is all very useful. Let's go display this newfood.csv. Sometimes you only want to display certain lines from a file. Unix has a wonderful command for just extracting only the lines from a file that match a certain sequence. So for example, maybe I only want to pull out the lines that contain the number 161. I notice there's a couple of them in there. The way I could do that was with a command called grep. So if I say grep 161 newfood.csv, this is going to display only the lines that have a 161 in them. So grep is very useful. I was just editing some social media data and I wanted to find all the lines that mentioned a certain company, for example Shell, and I would just say grep Shell and then that file name, and it displays them. So grep is a very good command to know about, and I'll be teaching you a little bit more about that when we get to regular expressions. So that gives you a little introduction to Unix. In a few minutes, I'll be showing you how you can log into Linux, the workstation, and try some of these out.